Hey, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Podcast. I'm Jay, and I'm your host, and I want to welcome you to the fourth installment in our Brokenness to Healing series. Today's episode is one of the most pivotal in the entire series. Before we dive into what we'll be talking about, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to y'all that are listening. I appreciate y'all so much. I love that you're on this journey with me. I pray that you would continue on the journey, and I hope that you'd share this podcast with whoever you know. Also, I want to reiterate that I want to connect with you, so reach out. You can email me at unfeignedpodcast@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. I also want to stress to visit the website. Go to our website. It's www.unfeigned.org. You can learn more about what we're about. You can book coaching sessions. You can access the podcast right through there. If you want to go to the podcast directly, go to tinyurl.com/unfeignedpodcast. Another announcement. Remember, the last Friday of every month, I'm dedicating that episode to a live Q&A session. The live Q&A session, that episode will be dedicated to answering the questions that y'all have submitted and the advice that y'all have asked for. So we'll dedicate the entire episode on the last Friday of every month. You can actually submit your questions at any point that you would like. Go ahead and do that. You can go right on the website, unfeigned.org, click the live Q&A link at the top, and go ahead and submit your questions or ask for your advice. All right, so let's dive into this episode. So like I said, this episode is one of the most pivotal in the whole series. And I'm calling this episode The Confrontation. It's going to be about facing what you've avoided, right? And so if you think back to one of the mantras, choose, commit, confront. The confrontation is probably the hardest part. And that's why this is the most, one of the most pivotal, right? We've been talking a lot about healing. And at some point on this journey, I've mentioned this idea of naming these areas of brokenness, right? And when we name this brokenness, whatever it is that's breaking us, or the area of our life that is marked by brokenness, when we name it, we start to step out from underneath its power. We become free and no longer a slave to it. And there's power in naming. However, healing isn't just about naming the pain. It's about facing it. If there's something I want you to remember, it would be that confrontation isn't cruelty. Let me say that again. Confrontation is not cruelty. It's clarity. Now, while confronting these things in our lives, right? When we make the decision to confront these areas of brokenness in our lives, it's scary and it's painful. And we may think that it's harsh, but it will provide clarity for us. And it's the moment that you stop hiding, stop blaming, and start owning the path to healing. If I could say that again, the confrontation is so crucial, because once we start to confront these areas of brokenness in our lives, those become the moments that we no longer hide, that we stop all the blaming, and we start to own our path to healing. And that's exciting. That's extremely exciting. And so why is it necessary, though? Why is confrontation so necessary? I've been saying how important it is to confront. And as I talk about these mantras, and I get to the confrontation section of the choose, commit, confront mantra, I've said it many times, it's so crucial. It's such a crucial step. I want to encourage you with a Bible verse, and John 8:32 says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Freedom is not found in avoidance. Because we're able to avoid things, because we're able to keep our brokenness at some distance, at arm's length, at bay, whatever you want to say, because we're able to do that and avoid those areas of brokenness, it may provide us with a false sense of freedom. But it's not freedom at all, because freedom isn't found in the avoiding of our areas of brokenness. It's found in facing what you'd rather forget. Hear me when I say that. Freedom is found in facing what you'd rather forget. So honestly, y'all, confrontation is a form of love. It's a form of love towards yourself and towards others, right? And until you confront what's broken, you will continue to live in the patterns, the behaviors, the habits that were created by pain. These toxic behaviors, these toxic patterns that live in our brokenness, until we confront that brokenness, we'll continue to live in those toxic patterns. So what do we need to confront? I've mentioned this idea of confrontation a lot, and I've talked about confronting our areas of brokenness. So what is that, right? What needs confronting in your story? There were a lot of things in my story that I needed to confront. See, I made the choice to heal. That was easy. That's simple. That's easy. I made the choice to heal because I didn't want to stay stuck. I didn't want to continue being who I was. I wanted to be better, and I wanted to grow, and I wanted to heal. So I made the choice to heal. And then I committed to doing whatever it took, whatever's necessary in order for me to realize that choice I made. Now, part of that leads to the third part in that mantra, and that's confront. Because if you make the choice and then you commit to that choice, it's inevitable. You have to confront these areas of brokenness. And there were things in my story that I had to confront in order for me to heal. And so what needs confronting in your story? Is it a person who hurt you? Is it the shame that keeps you silent? The guilt that keeps you stuck where you're at? Is it the coping mechanisms that no longer work, these unhealthy, toxic coping mechanisms? 2 Corinthians 7:10 says, "Godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation and leaves no regret, but worldly sorrow brings death." Confrontation isn't about self-punishment. It's about transformation. When we confront these areas of brokenness in our lives, it's not to punish ourselves. It's not for the purpose of putting ourselves through the pain and suffering as a form of punishment for what we've done or for our toxic behaviors or for our brokenness. It's about transformation. When we confront these areas of brokenness and we make the choice to heal, we commit to that choice, and we start to confront these areas of brokenness, and we decide how to counter these toxic behaviors, well, we become transformed. We begin to change. And so I want to talk very briefly, real quick, about the difference between confrontation and condemnation. Those are two very important words, especially on this episode, but for our healing. Confrontation versus condemnation. There's a huge difference between condemnation and conviction, right? Condemnation says you'll always be this way, right? It gives off the idea of being condemned to a life sentence. Condemnation says you'll always be this way. Conviction says you're better than this. When we feel inside that we are better than how we're behaving, that we're better than the patterns we're displaying, we're better than this. And that's conviction. We're convicted to change. Right? And I need to be clear about something because I talk about faith a lot because that's important to me, and it was a crucial aspect of my healing. And whether or not faith is important to you, this is true. What I'm about to share is just truth. And I need to be clear. God never uses shame to heal you. I need y'all to hear that. God never uses shame to heal you. Throughout my story, I have carried a lot of shame for the decisions I've made, for the choices I've made, for the way I behaved and acted, for where I fell short when I should have stepped up. I've carried a lot of shame. But God never used that shame to heal me. He doesn't do that. He uses truth, love, and grace. And so, albeit I'm carrying the shame around, God's not using my shame to heal me. He's using truth, love, and grace to help me walk through my shame, to help me surrender my shame, and to help me heal. So I would encourage you to ask yourself, where is this coming from? See, here's the difference between confrontation and condemnation. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? Rather than, what's wrong with me? Let me say that again. Instead of asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Ask yourself, where is this coming from? See, what's wrong with me condemns me. Asking myself, what's wrong with me? That's condemnation. Where is this coming from? That's confrontation. That leads to conviction. And it's so easy for us to feel like something's wrong with us, that we're so broken that something must be wrong with us. And we begin to ask ourselves that. And our inner critic starts to speak really loud. And as our inner critic speaks up, we hear, what's wrong with you? There must be something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And it's a mindset shift that you begin to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Because then you investigate. You see, when you say what's wrong with me, that's just depressing. That implies I'm messed up. And to sit in that is sad and depressing. But it doesn't necessarily spur on investigation. But when you say, where is this coming from? Now you're forced to answer that. Well, the only way to answer that is to investigate it. And when you sit in that and you dive into that, you start to confront these areas of brokenness. So how do you confront in grace? Right? We've heard the statement, we've probably even said it to someone else. Or maybe it's been said to you, right? That you have to give yourself some grace, or you got to give them a little bit of grace, right? We've heard that. Well, how do you confront in grace? What does that even mean, right? So I have 3 areas that I would encourage you to confront. 3 areas of confrontation that will contribute to your healing. Okay, confront yourself. Ask yourself, or whether it's out loud or not, but this is the question you should seek an answer for. Okay, confront yourself. What needs to be exposed so it can be healed? Okay, number 2, confront the situation. Again, the question that needs an answer is there a conversation you've avoided or a boundary that you need? Okay, number 3, the third confrontation is confront the lie. What falsehood have you been living as truth? Okay, I talk a lot about our inner critic starting to get real loud and speak lies that we begin to convince ourselves are truth. And so what lies, what falsehood have you been living as truth? Okay, remember this. When you think about those 3 areas of confrontation, remember this. This is important. Confrontation is a step of compassion, not cruelty. You're as you confront these areas of brokenness, and if you think about these 3 areas of confrontation, you're affording compassion to yourself and to the situation and to the light. You're doing this in a spirit of compassion, not cruelty. right? This isn't cruel, although it could feel that way. It could feel harsh. Um, so let me give you some practical tools. Okay. Here's some practical things that you can do that will help with the confrontation. Okay. Um, and again, you can write this down. You can think about it. Flashcards are fun if you want to have some fun with it. But answer for yourself, what truth have I been avoiding? Okay. If we really think about ourselves and we really think about our stories and we really examine the areas of our lives that led to brokenness somewhere, whether it be brokenness in our personal life, whether it be brokenness in our relationships, we all can examine these areas of brokenness and we could identify what they are. Well, as we identify these areas of brokenness, we know the truths that are attached to those because the truths contradict the lies that lead to our brokenness. So what truth have I been avoiding? What truth have you been avoiding? I would encourage you to just look up John 8:32, John 8:32 in the Bible. Okay. It says, just as an encouragement. Another question to write down or use a flashcard or think about, meditate on is, where am I afraid of the truth? So there could be a truth that is in there that you're afraid to come face to face with. You're afraid to reconcile with, right? If I can encourage you with a prayer, um, just something that you can say, something that would give you hope, something that would encourage you. It's something as simple as, God, give me the courage to confront what I've hidden. Let truth replace fear and grace replace shame. In Jesus' name, amen. Y'all, if I could recap quickly, and let me say this, these episodes in this series are, I think they're great. I love them. They're not long, and you can listen to these quickly, and I just love them because it gives us it gives us some information, but it also gives us some action points, like some calls to action, right? And so I really hope and I pray that y'all are that if you're listening to this, that you're being helped by it and that you can use these things and you're taking some of these things and you're pondering them and you're considering them. Okay. So let me close this episode by saying this. Confrontation isn't about discomfort. It is uncomfortable. Confrontation is uncomfortable. My personality, the kind of person I am, I love confrontation. I love healthy confrontation. But confrontation is uncomfortable, right? Sometimes confrontation is scary. Sometimes it can hurt. Sometimes it makes us squirm a little. Okay. But it's not about discomfort. Regardless of what it feels like, it's not about that. It's about freedom. When you name these areas of brokenness and then you confront them, you're freeing yourself from the power they have over you. The next episode in the series, we're going to dive into this concept of rebuilding from what's been exposed. Okay, so keep that in mind until next time. And let me just re-announce. Go to the website, unfeigned.org. Hit me up on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Email me, unfeignedpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, the last Friday of every month, we're doing the live Q&A. So go to the website, submit your questions, submit the advice you're looking for. We'll dedicate the last Friday's episode of every month. The next one's June 27th. And you can submit your questions, ask for your advice at any point. It doesn't matter when. You can submit that form and we'll dedicate that last episode or the episode in the last Friday of every month strictly to diving into the questions that we receive. I want to sign off on this episode by saying you'll notice if you go to the website that there's a link at the top. There's a page that we have that says book your sessions. I want to walk with you through your journey of healing. I really believe that by my story and the experiences that I've had, the things that I've gone through, I believe that there are lessons that I learned the hard way. There are lessons that I've learned, the experiences that I've had, and the suffering that I've went through, all of that. I believe that I can help you in your personal life or in your relationships. And I want to do that. I want to walk with you. And so you can book coaching sessions, and you can do it individually. You can do it as a couple. And I want to walk with y'all through this. I don't have all the answers. I don't consider myself anything special. I just know that I went through a lot. My healing journey has been long and rough. I've healed tremendously. I've healed from a lot of things. I learned the hard way, and God has brought me through all of it to the other side. And I want to help, even if it's one person, I want to help people walk through their brokenness into healing. So if that's you, if you're interested or know somebody that is, go to the website, book a session, let's connect, and let's grow, let's heal, let's experience this redemption as we walk through our journeys of healing. Till next time, y'all, see you then.